All right, so not in studio today. I'm on a family trip, but obviously terrible news for Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer, and a big win for Blake Lively, as I expected. And I've been trying to subtly and not so subtly prepare y'all for this for a while. It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a defamation plaintiff to win a case these days, particularly in California. So the judge has tossed out most of Baldoni's claims. And I know some people were saying that it's not a big deal, that Wayfarer and Baldoni can just refile. No, they cannot. From the vast majority of the claims, the judge specifically said that they cannot be amended and refiled. So yes, there are a couple of claims that are still left on the table, but I have to be honest with you all, judging by the way things have gone so far and by what I've seen in other defamation cases, I would not hold out much hope that those claims are going to make it to the end. I have been saying for a long time that the war is not at a future date in the courtroom. The war is now, and the war is for public opinion. In the end, it is kind of irrelevant what the judge decides or what happens in our justice system when what really matters is the court of public opinion. And it's the court of public opinion that's going to determine the fate of Blake Lively's career and reputation, and Ryan Reynolds' career and reputation, and of course the New York Times reputation. What a joke, right? And in the court of public opinion, the verdict, frankly, has already come down, and it is not going to change. Brian Friedman is no idiot. He is a master of the legal system. He has been based out of California for a while. He knew as well or better than I did what this was going to come down to. He knew that this lawsuit was a long shot. But you know what Brian Friedman understands, and what I've understood, and what some people have also understood, and we've been saying for a while now, is that these days you don't file a lawsuit to win in court. You file a lawsuit because the legal forum is one of the few remaining forums where you can get your information, your evidence out there. You can make your arguments in a cogent way, and people will pay attention. And people have paid attention. And Brian Friedman's big PR strategy has paid off in that way. And Brian Friedman and company have gotten some criticism over the past months for playing a flashy PR game and playing to the public rather than just keeping things tightly in the justice system arena. But they knew what they were doing, and Brian Friedman knew that the game that he needed to play was a public game. And that strategy has borne out well because public opinion has turned incredibly, incredibly heavily against Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds and the New York Times. Of course, the New York Times is a no-brainer. Everybody hates the New York Times. But this is in a number of ways a Pyrrhic victory for Blake Lively. She's going to get some great media coverage the next day or two, and her supporters, all 5 or 6 of them, are going to do a little dance on Justin Baldoni's graveyard. But it's going to be a premature dance because Justin Baldoni, make no mistake, everyone, Justin Baldoni is coming out of this thing with a much stronger, better reputation than he had before it. He was an unknown going into this. He was, no offense to him, a nobody. And now he and Wayfarer are household names, and he is beloved by most people, and he has the sympathy of the public. And that, frankly, is only going to get stronger now that there's this unfair ruling that's been issued against him. People know the score. People see what has happened. People know who the real villains are in this. And Justin Baldoni, I believe, is going to have a flourishing career coming out of this. And this whole experience will have ended up being, yes, a net gain for him. As difficult and as torturous as this has been at times, and as difficult as it will continue to be, this was a net gain for him. He is coming out of this a popular, beloved, well-known figure. Blake Lively, on the other hand, her reputation is in tatters. And this court ruling is not going to change anyone's mind. It's not going to change anyone's mind. And so, yes, you have a few Blake simps and supporters that are going to dance around on Baldoni's grave thinking that they've done him in. But it's not true. And just like Christ rose on the third day, you're going to see Justin Baldoni rise again, and he's going to be better than ever. And he now has the popularity and the esteem and the sympathy of the public, which he did not have before all of this. Whereas Blake Lively, her reputation is in tatters. She is hated. And I would be shocked if she is able to rebuild a career on the back of this court ruling. Absolutely will be shocked. There are courts that are higher than the justice system. And there are two in particular that I'm thinking of. One is the court of public opinion. The court of public opinion is what matters because the court of public opinion determines if Blake Lively gets any more juicy movie roles, or if Blake Lively can have a career after this, or if anyone's going to go see Blake Lively's movies. And I guarantee you right now, in Hollywood, in the entertainment industry, she is considered absolute poison, and nothing is going to change that. And Ryan Reynolds, because of the power of his Deadpool franchise, and because there's so many idiots who love those damned, stupid, idiotic superhero movies. God, could someone invent a time machine and just go back and prevent every superhero movie that has ever been made from being made, so we just don't have that entire tired, idiotic genre anymore? I would love that. I hate seeing all of these stupid, vapid, vacuous superhero movies clogging up Netflix and the streaming services and the movie theaters. But whatever, that's my own personal complaint. But here's my point. Ryan Reynolds, he has the Deadpool franchise. And so he might get through with his career somewhat intact from that, but he is now going to be hated by a lot of people as well. And the long road ahead for Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds will continue to be a long road, because this ruling by the judge, it's going to give them a little bit of temporary good PR, but people are not going to buy it. You can already see they're not buying it. People know that something is rotten in the state of Denmark in terms of the court system and its adjudication of defamation claims, and people have seen the text, they've seen the evidence, they are familiar with this case, and they know that Blake Lively is the villain. So there are two courts of public opinion that are higher than the justice system. There are two courts that are higher than the justice system. There's the court of public opinion, and then there's also the court of the highest power, God. And Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds better damn well hope that God is a fan of narcissistic, deceitful, manipulative actresses and their narcissistic, deceitful, manipulative husbands. Because if God is not a fan of those types, then boy, did these two have some terrible karma heading their way. So look, I know it's a bad day for all of us. It's not what we wanted by any means, but I have expected this whole time, and I'm not the only one. I've seen others commenting on it, right? I mean, Ari Jacob, who's been on Baldoni's side from the very beginning, and she waged her own defamation battle against the New York Times and Taylor Lorenz. Well, she had to end up settling as well, because you just can't fight this stuff in the courts these days. The system is just stacked against defamation claimants. So this is how it is, but the fight continues. This was always going to be about the court of public opinion. The battle, as I've been saying for months and months, the war is the public war. It is not the war in court. And so whatever happens in court from here on out, the public war continues. And I don't know about you, but I am going to continue to raise hell about this case and to educate people about this case and to promote this tremendous injustice that has been done by Blake Lively and by the court system to Baldoni and Wayfarer. I'm not letting this go. I know you all are not either. Now, there are still things to be hashed out on the court. The judge notified Blake Lively and parties that he was not awarding special damages, treble damages, court fees, all of that according to the anti-SLAPP or the 47.1 statutes. So Blake Lively, he's waiting for them. The judge is waiting for Blake Lively and company to refile their request for damages and fees and so forth, right? And so they will do that. And then that will then be adjudicated. And then, yes, there are still 2 claims outstanding that the judge said that Wayfarer and Baldoni can refile on. So that will continue in the courts. But as I've been saying to you all, this was always going to end up being a war in the court of public opinion and not in the justice system. This was always where this was going. I've seen this too many times. So I'm sorry. I know it hurts. I know it's a hit in the gut, but this is not the end. And just remember that even now, Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer are so far ahead of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds in the court of public opinion. They are. And so in a lot of ways, this is a futile victory. It's kind of a pointless victory. It's kind of a Pyrrhic victory. Yeah, most of the claims got dismissed, but look at where Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are now. In the court of public opinion, it's not going to change. The people are not stupid. The people are not going to be fooled by this. And I don't know about you, but I'm going to continue to educate the public on this. Appreciate you and your support. My links are below. And if anything, this should just be a gut check to get us to assess ourselves, take a deep breath, and go back out on the battlefield.
We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets, we shall fight in the hills, we shall never surrender. And if, which I do not for a moment believe, this island or a large part of it was subjugated and starving, then our empire beyond the seas, armed and guarded by the British fleet, would carry on the struggle until, in God's good time, the new world, with all its power and might, steps forth to the rescue and the liberation of the old.